Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to feature a conversation I recently recorded with Clement and Chris Lowe. Clement and Chris are both second-year students in our class of 2020, and they are leaders in the Asia Business Club at Darden Student Organization, or ABCD as it is known around these parts. And the three of us recently sat down to talk a little bit more about Clement and Chris's background, what brought them to Darden, what they've enjoyed about their business school experience thus far, some of the activities and programming ABCD has offered for its membership this year, and much more. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation, so without further ado, here's my interview with Clement and Chris Lowe. Clement, Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So start all these conversations the same way. I want to get to know you before we really dive into the meat of the conversation. So Clement, let's start with you. What's your background? What did you do before coming to Darden?
So my name is Clement. I was born in Paris to a French and Swiss father and a Taiwanese mother. Before coming to Darden, I've lived actually between Europe and Asia in 8 different countries. And most recently, I was an entrepreneur based in Hong Kong who was working on a startup that manufactured Swiss-made health supplements for the Asian market.
So lots of great global experience.
That's right.
So how about you, Chris?
So my name is Chris. I was born and raised in Shanghai, China. So before MBA, I was working as a consultant in a German boutique consulting firm. So basically helping companies to strategize their organizational development strategies. So basically all my experience has been in Asia region.
Nice. So did you both know that you always wanted to get an MBA? Was it part of the plan? You graduate college. Was an MBA on your mind, or was it something that sort of was an evolving interest? How about you, Chris?
For me, I always knew I wanted an advanced degree other than bachelor degree. I thought about other degrees as well, but eventually I was already 6 years in my working experience. I thought, at this moment of time, I think MBA makes the most sense for me.
Nice. How about you, Clement?
So I actually have been thinking about doing an MBA since my senior year of high school. I knew that I wanted to work in business, and looking at all the amazing opportunities that top MBA programs had, I was already researching it at the time, and this was something that I really wanted at some point in my life.
So there are many business schools in the world. What brought you to Darden specifically?
So I think what really appeals to me about Darden is the case method. This 100% case method educational program really helps you immerse yourself in a complexity of business cases that you can analyze through different lenses, and gives you a lot of the working knowledge you need when you face tough situations during your career. And doing this every day during your core and during your first year, along with your section, really helps you build a bond with your classmates, which I think is exceptional down the line.
Yeah, case method is one of those things that I think a lot of prospective students don't necessarily have experience with. Maybe if they were an undergraduate business major, they had some exposure to it. And then when people come for a class visit and they see what a class looks like here and all, discussion and people going back and forth and sort of energy of it, I think it kind of clicks for them. It's like, oh, well, of course you would learn this way, right? It's a business program. You're going to talk about things, and you're going to, work on your communication and interpersonal skills and problem solving and collaboration and all these kinds of things. So, Chris, how about you? What about Darden resonated with you?
Yep. So for me, it's more about the close-knit community. I went to those info sessions back in Shanghai where I met a couple of alumni, and one of them just volunteered to say, hey, I heard you just got an interview invite from Darden. Do you want me to do a mock interview with you? So I don't get those experience with other MBA programs. The fact that people are just so willing to be there to help you to succeed, I think this is the kind of community I really want to be in for my MBA experience.
It's a good point as well. Case method is about community. Clement, you mentioned the sort of section experience and sort of all the connections that you make through the learning experience. But that community is also inclusive of alumni around the world. We have a Darden presence in Shanghai. We have colleagues actually over there, and obviously a number of alums in the area. And so, yes, these people are eager to get to know you as a prospective student, to help you think about your MBA decision and to share their experience with you. I think that's one of the great things about being an admissions officer here is that, you have many people who are interested in helping. So you come to Darden. Had y'all spent much time in Charlottesville before showing up here for your move-in?
Actually, no. My first experience with Charlottesville was arriving for Darden before Darden, which is the program that a lot of international students are encouraged to take. It's a preparation course that goes on for 10 days. And it was a very good experience when I arrived. I had not really expected Charlottesville to be a small town, which has all the attributes that you can find in a larger city. It's relatively easy to get around honestly, the fact that we are only 350 people within the Darden community per year, I think means that you always bump into someone that you know.
That is true. And you have, your learning team, you have a section, which is a group of 65 or so people. So you have all these points of contact. You also have clubs and organizations. We're going to talk about ABCD soon enough here, and 50 plus student organizations here at Darden. In Charlottesville, sort of a very human scale to it. Depending on how you define the metro area, it might be about 100,000 people or so, but pretty easy to navigate. How about you, Chris? Had you spent much time in Charlottesville before moving in?
Not really, actually. But I did come here for the, I think it's called Darden Days.
That's right.
It's the weekend for admitted students. So I actually flew from China for this weekend with my parents. Part of the reason was I want my parents to know the environment I'll be spend my 2 years in. So we didn't really see much of Charlottesville at that weekend, but I think overall they really liked the small town kind of environment. I mean, we're from Shanghai, so I've always been a city girl. This is the first time I live in such a small town, but it all worked out really well.
Yeah, Shanghai, a huge city, not just any city, one of the largest cities in the whole world. So I imagine the scale of Charlottesville was a little bit different. Interesting your point about parents. I've had a number of conversations with international prospective students, and their families are connected to their decision making, right? They're having these conversations with parents and siblings and other people because they are leaving a familiar environment to come to the U.S., maybe a less familiar environment, maybe a completely unknown environment. And so it's understandable that it would be this sort of group decision, and you would want your parents to be comfortable with where you're going to be.
Right.
So you come, it's first year. A lot of discussion on the podcast about the first year. Obviously, a lot chronicled about the first year. Darden has a core curriculum. You're adjusting to the case method, learning team meetings, long hours, lots of hard work. So, Clement, for you, what was the biggest adjustment for you?
I think the biggest adjustment is that on day one, when you arrive in Darden, the school makes you run at a certain pace that you're not always used to. From 8 o'clock in the morning to 1 p.m., you are studying cases, and the class discussion is intense because participation is a very big part of the case method. And one of the things I'm the most grateful for during this time was that I always had a learning team that I could meet up with in the evenings in order to help me adjust to the fast pace of this school's program.
Yeah, you're right. There's no easing you in. We do have Darden before Darden for students who come from a quote-unquote less traditional background, may have not had some of the accounting, finance, these kinds of things. International students are also encouraged, as you mentioned. But there's no real perfect preparation for what that first day of class is going to be like, and getting cold called and called on by the professor, having to speak up and participate. Obviously, as you know, participation is a good chunk of your grade. So lots of adjustment for everybody in those early days of the first year. So Chris, what was the adjustment like for you?
Yeah, for me, it's more about finding the balance. Like Clement just said, it's very heavy academically here at Darden. I think Darden is kind of famous for it. But on the other hand, you also have recruiting going on. You also need to spend time with your friends to make friends. I think especially the first 2 weeks or even first month is very critical to build your social network here. So for me, like, I used to joke about it. I used to work from like 8 to 5 every day. But since I came to Darden, especially in the first 3 months in first year, I woke up at like 7 a.m. and went to sleep around 1 a.m. because I had to like go to recruiting events, go to classes, and spend like 2 hours, maybe like talk to my friends, and have dinner outside, and then come back for learning team, and then work on your like networking calls and emails. So it's a lot. And then how do you like find a balance? How do you really arrange your time wisely? I think this is the biggest challenge, like first year students will encounter here.
Oh yeah, we've had many conversations about this, and people talk. There's really 3 things you're trying to do: job, school, not necessarily school, job, and social. Right? You're trying to figure out how to balance these things. You want to do them all. There's so many things for you to do in that first year. It's this huge buffet, incredible opportunities, but you can't do them all, and you have to figure out how to prioritize. The other thing that people talk about, though, is that you realize that you're capable of doing a lot, maybe a lot more than you even thought. You sort of have this expanded sense of your own, capability. It sounds like maybe you got a feel for that if you're waking up early and going to bed late.
True. And also, like, for me, I'm a career switcher, so I used to work in consulting, but I had, like, zero financing background. But coming to Darden, I learned about Darden's, like strong suits in placing people in the finance area. So, like, I started to look in finance as my potential job opportunities. And then, it basically entails I have to learn a lot more about finance from class, outside of class, talk to bankers about what their jobs being like. So everything is very new to me, but I'm very glad that I have such a strong like support system here at Darden just to help me to get through the whole process.
Yeah, we had the Finance Club on the podcast to talk about some of the support they offer. And just some of that is just second year to first year student. Hey, this is what it's like. Here's some things you should know. And then some of it's actually formalized, whether classes or, essentially, programs that they're running for people who are thinking about working in finance and kind of trying to meet students where they are. Do you know what you want to do? Or are you still trying to figure out what you want to do? Here's some steps you can help take. So,
exactly.
Yeah, get into the first year, obviously an adjustment process from the learning and sort of time management end of things. You have any favorite memories from that year? Anything that stands out as like, this is one of the things that I think about a lot when I think about my first year?
In my first year, I remember there was a time with my learning team that was super memorable. So I think this was at the start of the third quarter, where recruiting was actually at its most intense. Results were coming in, new openings were coming up, so people were either receiving results for interviews that they had over the break or preparing themselves to enter other industries. And we were adjusting ourselves to a new set of core courses that we were unfamiliar with. So everyone was very stressed out. And during that time, me and another learning team member, we decided it would be a good time just to bring wine, chocolate, and a full meal to the learning team and just have a big banquet amongst ourselves before starting to work on our case. And it almost had this Thanksgiving-like feeling when we were all sharing pizzas, fried chicken, some French wine, and some chocolate. It was an amazing moment, and that really turned our mood around and motivated us to push a bit harder on, knowing that we all came here for a reason and we were all together for each other.
Yeah, quarter three is a tough time because of it's really a hectic time for students. For those of you who are less familiar with the Darden schedule and sort of wondering about quarter three really kicks off in January when students come back from that holiday break, and is a time when you've done all the research and you've kind of figured out what you want to do. Maybe you started to apply for things. Maybe you started the interview process, or you will be starting the interview process for your summer internship soon. So to Clement's point here. Things get real pretty quickly, and then you got a very full plate. So nice to take a pause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So how about you, Chris? Any favorite memory from your first year when you sort of reflect on that year? Think something that stands out?
Right. I would say something more fun on the fun side. So Darden obviously hosts a lot of like events throughout the year, but my favorite is definitely gonna be the holiday ball. Because like it's just nice to see like people dressing like black ties and like dresses, like change of sceneries. You still meet the same group of people, but it's just gonna be so different. It's feel like, oh, we're not in school anymore. Like it's actually like kind of social scene. Everyone just dance party. It's really, really hard. I think it's just also like took the stress out of like the recruiting season, because holiday ball usually happens right before the winter break, where like people were like kind of swamped by recruiting, by academics. I think it's just like a very nice break out of everything.
Yeah, it does seem like it seems like people have a good time at the holiday ball. That's my anecdotal impression just from hearing people, and it is nice to get dressed up occasionally like that. So, you're now second year students. How does second year feel to you by comparison to first year? I've asked this question of a few other people. I'm always interested in the answer. So, Clement, how does first year compare to second year in your mind, or vice versa?
So what's special about second year is that we're transitioning into a system where we can choose our own classes, an elective system. And with that, we can choose our own concentrations as well. Personally, I'm concentrating in strategy classes, which is in line with my outcome after graduation. And on first impression, everyone would think it would be a lot more chilled out and relaxed than first year. But actually, it's more busy and more challenging in a very different way. Not only are you studying subjects which are directly relevant to your future career, but you also have you're handed over affinity clubs, professional clubs, and just different organizations from Darden that you now have the responsibility to manage. So between concentrating in a subject which is your passion, as well as taking care of bigger student affairs in the Darden community, I find it very, very a lot more busy, but a lot more relaxed at the same time.
An interesting dichotomy, right? So you own your schedule a little bit more, but you fill up that time with a lot of other things.
Right.
But, once you have your job in hand, I imagine it takes, once you know what you're doing post-graduation, I imagine that takes a little bit of the pressure off for people.
It takes a lot of the edge off. I think one of the happiest moments of second year was when I signed my offer, so that I could fully concentrate on just doing what was good for me in the immediate and didn't have to worry about the future anymore.
I completely can understand that. I mean, the amount of time and effort you've put into sort of getting to that point. I mean, business school in many ways is the culmination of a lot of your prior education too, right? So as a graduate, business education. So I can imagine that would be a tremendous feeling. You sign that offer, you know what you're doing, and you've accomplished a goal. So Chris, how about you? How do you think about second year versus first year?
Yeah, I think similar to what Clement just said, I think first year is more about getting through the process, right? You don't really know that much about what's going on, so you came to Darden and then you follow all the recruiting process, and you went through, you got an internship, and you went to spend 3 months on the job. Coming back, doesn't really matter whether you have the offer on hand or not. I think people tend to know more about themselves after the summer. Oh, do I enjoy my summer experience? Do I want to go back, or do I want to try something new? So second year, I feel like in general, second year students, of course, they still want to get a job or still want to sign that offer, but it's more like I want to figure out what I want to do first. And then I can basically follow whatever I want to do. And also, once you sign that offer, you're going to think, okay, I have 7-8 months left in Darden. What can be my legacy? What should I do? How can I help the first years? So it's more about who I am as a, let's say, MBA student. How can I contribute to Darden? So it's more on that regard.
Yeah, I've been struck by how many second year students are focused on. I mean, this is a time when people could be really checked out, right? If you already have your job offer, I mean, you could be, I guess, as long as you go to class, you could be doing any number of other things, and yet people are still invested and engaged with what's going on here. Which brings me to sort of the next part of our conversation. Talk a little bit more about ABCD. You're both leaders in this student club, Asian Business Club Darden. So what led you to become leaders in the organization?
So what led me to really become a leader in ABCD was during my first year, I realized that there is just a huge diversity of Asian students in Darden. And it's usually a label that people assign to international students, but there were also Asian Americans. There were also non-Asian students who were interested in Asian culture. And there were just people from so many different nationalities within Asia. Me and Chris just had the idea that in our campaign for leadership, we just want to bring all these people together under one flag, which is promoting Asian culture and helping Asian students who want to establish themselves in America through Darden, or those who would want to work in Asia and guide them through the process. This was kind of the defining scope of what we wanted to do for our year.
So what kind of programming have you offered over the past few months? Chris, any highlights from the ABCD calendar that you want to talk about here?
We actually just concluded our Asia Week at Darden, which was the first week of Q3 actually this year. So we did like global traveler. We like introduced places like Taiwan, like Kazakhstan, and then we also invited like different guest speakers to come here to talk about like being an entrepreneur in Asia, like being an investor in Asia. So I think students are like very interested in our programming.
Yeah, those weeks are always incredible. There's so much learning you can do, both on the cultural front, and then there's always obviously a business focus to it as well. This is a very rich time in the life of the business school, because it seems like there is a week every week for like the next few months. Obviously, if you want to learn about the world, there's no better time than right now at the Darden School. So you got a few more months, though. Obviously, you're going to be handing over the leadership to some up and coming, rising second years. But what's left on the ABCD calendar for the remaining months?
So right now, our next big event is the Korean barbecue. So we have promised our first year membership a big event where we are making Korean barbecue and serving soju and beers to them, Korean style. And this has been something that we actually planned to do a lot earlier on. But remembering our experiences during first year in the midst of recruiting in core, we came to the deduction that maybe it would be better for us to wait until positive outcomes are shown to our first years before doing this. And in the meantime, we filled a lot of the gaps during Q1 and Q2 with intensive recruiting-focused events. We have two awesome career reps, Fung and Avery, who has worked very hard to develop a whole program which leads the first years from a funnel that goes from resume workshops, cover letter workshops, behavioral interview, quants-based interviews, all the way to networking simulations. And this has been what we're focusing on. And now we want to show a bit more of the fun side of ABCD with Asia Week, but now with a big Korean barbecue event before we hand over the club.
I'm so interested in the career programming that you offered. Did you choose to offer that because it's something you've always done? Did you choose to offer it because you sensed that there was a need, that students were interested in that? Chris, any thoughts on that?
It's definitely a combination of both. I think we were benefited from our predecessor, because they also give us a really awesome career program, say, okay, this is what you need to do in terms of recruiting and breaking down to different industry sectors. And then this is also what we want to give back to our successors, the following first years. And on the other hand, I think the first years, they also told us hey, we have been experiencing such and such challenges during our recruiting process. Do you have any advice for us? So I think we are definitely trying to combine the needs and what we can offer together, just to make sure that the first years will have the best help or support system in hand when it comes to recruiting.
Yeah, it is. I'm struck by the active role that second years play in supporting first years as they navigate the job search process, the internship search process. It is really very much a community affair here. I'm not sure that prospective students always know about that, and I try to talk about it quite a bit on the podcast because, there's career coaches, so second-year coaches. There's all the support through the various clubs and organizations, those that have sort of more of an industry focus. But then there's also, obviously, ABCD doing career support as well. And, second years, again, can't say this enough, do really seem invested in helping first-year students.
And I also want to add, for affinity clubs, I think we know more about the cultural background of our, members. So we actually are positioned to better help them to see, okay, this is the Asian culture you're coming from, but now you want to work in the States. So this is the kind of culture transition you might want to focus on during your recruiting process. So I think this is one of the more value-added point we can bring to our members.
That is great.
I would also like to add that this has actually been a great success this year. Last year, ABC did provide a lot of career and guidance, but a lot of it was focused on how to specifically behave or network in certain industries. This year, we had a great VP of Communications, RJ, who really pulled the first-year students to get to know what were their individual challenges and realize a lot of it stemmed actually from culture shock, which is normal when moving from one side of the planet to another into an entirely different culture. And during all our career-related events, we really focus on how to frame a good narrative, on how to present yourself and your story in a way which is engaging, as well as which is appealing to American and U.S.-based employers here. And I think this was the greatest added value that we did on this year, was that we really tried to take the perspective of an incoming international student and try to build on all the soft skills which are needed in order to perform at your optimal level in Darden.
Yeah, how do you help people navigate culture shock, which no doubt that's inevitable for anyone coming to a brand new place. Obviously, even some of our U.S.-based students, just adjusting to business school and, life in Charlottesville. But no doubt that it's much more dramatic for students who may have never spent time in the U.S. prior to business school and maybe not Charlottesville. So how do you help students navigate that?
So I can give you an example. So I was talking to one of the students about her recruiting experience, and while she was talking to me, she was like, "Yeah, because from Asian culture, we tend to be very humble, and then we have the tendency to tell other people we're not good at something, but it's not necessarily true. It's just them being humble. So I would tell them, hey, we're just have a casual talk with each other, but you should be very mindful of doing this in front of a recruiter or in front of alumni, because this is not what other people expect you to say. First, in your mind, you're being humble, but in their mind, you're just telling them you're not capable of doing this job, and you should definitely try not to do that. So these little things come out of like I said, small talks or little conversations. It doesn't have to be always to be a lecture. It's just we talk to our members because they're our friends, basically. And we listen and we point out whatever they need to improve anytime.
Yeah, and going on that, I think one of the workshops we did where we spent a lot of time getting to know our members was a networking workshop that we did where we had second years sit down individually with all the first year's attendees that came. And for the first part of the session, we just let them explain their career trajectory, explain the reasons why they came to do an MBA and what their desired outcome, and let them say it in their own words. Then afterwards, once we have heard their story and understood where they're coming from, we would try to help them rephrase it in a way which sounds more confident as well as bolder, which, as Chris said earlier, is one of the things which a lot of students issued from Asian cultures have needed some assistance on. And I remember one of the students that I sat down with had an amazing life story. This person was a model and has worked on insane robotics and AI projects before. but wasn't able to highlight this as a strong first impression. This was part of the narrative that came later as he was detailing his career to me. And we managed to flip that around, and I told him, listen, you have an amazing story that a lot of people do not have. This makes you unique. So make this your first impression. Tell them about this amazing robotics and AI project that you worked on in your job before Darden, and mention the fact that you were a professional model and TV actor for a while. This is something that really makes you stand out. And just kind of getting to know your members and seeing what makes them unique is how you can get them to feel more comfortable promoting themselves. That's
great advice. And it's, I guess, comforting to hear that y'all are having these conversations, even on these sort of micro scale, just one-to-one. Hey, we're talking about this, and you should really think about doing it differently, or approaching that. I understand why you may be saying that, but be mindful of saying it that way, just given sort of the U.S. context. So you're now just a few months away from graduation. It may not feel that close to you. Maybe it feels that close to you. Any sort of things you're hoping to accomplish over these last few months before graduation rolls around?
I will still try to use the next 3 months, let's say, to get to know more people. Because I really want my experience not just say, oh, I went to Darden with 365 people, right? I actually want to know I was able to make friends with that many people and actually know their life stories. I think this is what makes MBA experience really unique, because you really get to know so many people, and this will be your network after MBA. And we should just really spend time to get to know each other.
I would also like to focus on networking, but with a different twist. During the 1 year and a half I was here, I realized that we have an absolutely amazing faculty here at Darden. Our professors all have amazing and exceptional background stories, and they're rich in life experiences. And I like to spend the rest of my time here just getting to know them more, spending some time with them, doing coffee chats, doing office hours, and just learning from those who have more wisdom and knowledge than yourself before going into the real world.
And they're accessible to you, right? That's
right. They're very accessible. The professors are always down for a chat after class, and they always respond to calendar invites and emails, which is something that's really great about Darden. We have some of the most accessible as well as high-profile faculties of any business school, I would say.
And maybe invite them to the Korean barbecue.
I would love to.
So, have you figured out what you're doing after graduation? Do you know where you're headed?
Yeah, so I will be heading to London, England, to work in strategy consulting for ZS Associates.
Is that what you thought you were going to do coming into business school?
Yes, that was my goal. I wanted to either work in healthcare or consulting out of business school. I want to veer into a consulting background, but retain my focus on healthcare, as my startup was a healthcare startup, and I thought this was a great field to be in.
How about you, Chris?
I will be moving to New York City, and I'll be working as investment banking associate in Deutsche Bank.
Nice. Is that based upon your earlier comments? I think you probably came with a focus on finance. But did your interest evolve over the time in business school?
Yeah. So actually, I came to Darden without a very clear career goal. I know I want to do something else, something different, and finance is just something I've never touched upon in my past experience, in my past work. So I was like, okay, let's try out finance, and knowing Darden can provide me so much resources on building a career in finance. So yeah, I actually really loved my summer experience. I loved my choice. It was tough to some extent, but I think now it's the time for us to really challenge ourselves. So yeah, I really like my choice. I'm really looking forward to the life after MBA.
Nice. Well, I always learn something through these conversations. This has been super helpful to me. Great to hear about all the programming and sort of individual support ABCD is doing. I will say sort of naively, I've known about things like Asia Week, sort of, high profile events, but all the support you're providing to first year students as they sort of navigate the adjustment process, being in the U.S., being at Darden, adjusting to business school, that's incredible to hear. Certainly a credit to your leadership. So Clement, Chris, thank you for taking time. I know what busy people you are. It's been great having you on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your experience with our listeners.
Okay,
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
thank you.
And that was my conversation with Clement Leroyer and Chris Lowe, two second-year students in our class of 2020. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's DARDEN, @virginia.edu. And until next time, thanks for listening.